Hello, everybody. Richard C. Wilson here. And today we have an exciting interview. We're going to be talking to the founder of the Connor Group, who has built billions of dollars in real estate assets, namely apartment buildings and multifamily real estate. We're going to be going over some of the typical questions that we are covering during the Billionaires.com interview series, and also going a little bit deeper. So I'd like to welcome you, Larry, here to the interview today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, happy to be here.
Sure. Could you give us a little background on how you started the Connor Group and just a little bit of a bio on yourself, just to set some context for the interview today?
So we started the Connor Group in 1992. And prior to that, I had been in the computer industry. So I'd done a little bit of investing on the side, and we can get into it later, but we ended up failing and closing our computer company after 9+ years. Tremendous learning, albeit very difficult.
Right.
And so we thought we could come to the real estate industry and take a different approach. And we thought that apartment communities, and by the way, we have large, what they would call renter by choice, luxury apartment communities in 18 cities around the United States. We've got about 5 billion currently in assets. And that we would think about this as buying operating businesses. Because if you think about an apartment community, it basically has all the components of an operating business, and not treated as a passive real estate investment. So really our expertise started as great operators. We would buy nice apartments, great location, maybe the physical facility is nice, but they were being poorly operated. The resident service was poor. Their expenses were high. They could raise rates, but they didn't. And that was really the genesis of our strategy. And that genesis has not changed in the last 30 years.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. Well, knowing the real estate space, I would guess competing against now institutional buyers at the level you're at, having that boots on the ground operational expertise has got to be a real edge, because many times when you get to the size of buying thousands of units at a time, the people who are actually making those decisions are removed from those operations and the vertical integration nature that you've built at the Connor Group. So congratulations on what you've built.
Yeah. One point on that, by the way, you are absolutely right. Institutional owners buy really nice properties in good locations. They generally maintain them physically well, but they farm it out to a third-party manager who only gets paid on the top line. Interesting thing, they get paid on the top line, not the bottom line. Well, I thought in most businesses, the idea is you should make a profit. Our whole focus is on the bottom line, coupled with exceptional, what we call customer service or resident service. And so they are great people for us to buy from, because they leave, shall we say, a lot of opportunity for us to improve the operation.
Right, right. Well, what was the real turning point in your career? I mean, a lot of people work in multifamily. A lot of people have real estate investment funds. Almost nobody scales to billions of dollars in assets. So what was the turning point where you got a ton of momentum?
Sure. So that would be easy. That would be failure, and multiple failures, but fortunately learning along the way. I'll give you one example. It's 1990. I'd referenced that before. We had a computer company. It was actually based in Orlando, Florida. We'd become the second largest reseller of local area networks, hardware, software in the state. And we went out of business. Margins got crushed. We didn't have enough capital, et cetera, et cetera. Here I am, age 40, closed the doors. By the way, we did not go bankrupt. And I got a wife, 2 kids, and a farm. And it's, well, we're going to have to start all over again. But we actually believe that failure many times can be the first steps to success. So we took all those learned experiences. Keep in mind, the computer industry moves very quickly and is ever changing, and said, look, can we apply all those failures, all those learned experience in a different industry? So that's why we went to the real estate industry. And by the way, one of the unique things is we hire nobody from the real estate industry. We hire for personality traits and cultural fit.
Okay.
And so failure became the genesis of success for us.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, just a real quick aside, people who are 40 right now and they look at what you've built, they look at the price of real estate, the level of competition these days. I mean, has the train left the station? Do those people have no hope? Or there are so many people sitting on assets doing a horrible job managing them that there's opportunity everywhere?
There is no such thing as the train left the station. Think about it. There are millions of apartments in the United States owned by tens of thousands of owners, most of them very small. But even in the larger space, there are over 500 significant size operators of luxury apartments, with the vast majority of them treating them as a passive investment. So by definition, there will always be mismanaged businesses, meaning there'll always be mismanaged apartment communities. So we spend a great deal of time. I'll give you an example. In a typical year, in our 18 markets, we'll get information on 700 or 800 apartment communities coming to the market.
Wow.
We have a whole team of people. We will underwrite 300 to 400 of those with our own proprietary models and due diligence. We will go out and visit in a typical year 175 to 225, and we'll buy 8 or 10. So it's the 1% rule.
Right. Got it. Okay. So I want to ask two questions here. First is, if somebody is getting started today, looking to have massive momentum in the real estate space, what would be your advice to them as kind of like a mentor? If they sat down with a cup of coffee and they said, how do I get started in this crazy market? Where would you say to focus their energy if they only have so much time and resources?
Whether it's real estate, you're going to start a business, you're going to buy a business, our advice would be the same. And it is the 4 Ps if you want to be successful. Number one, you got to get the right people. People who have the same beliefs and philosophies, that you are what we would call aligned and in sync.
Right.
2, you got to have a plan. By the way, it doesn't have to be 30 pages long, but you need a plan. 3, you got to build processes. Processes will equal outcome. And 4, you need perseverance. Wrap those 4 together. Notice, I did not talk about financial wherewithal. Lots of people with significant financial wherewithal have failed. The foundational blocks are those 4 for success.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, what's a mistake that you see people make all the time that they could easily avoid that we should mention here?
Think short term, not long term. And they manage for the moment, the day, or the week. And that's not a winning strategy. You got to have a plan, and the plan cannot be 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Right. Okay, got it. And so let's go back a second to not hiring people in your industry. You said that you don't do that. You would think someone managing $5-6 billion in real estate would go poach all the top talent from all your top competitors, or at least consider that, or maybe you attract some of them, but you don't like to do that. So why is that? And get that you want to hire people aligned with your culture and beliefs, but I would think you could find highly experienced leasing agents that are aligned with your beliefs, et cetera.
Well, you would certainly think so, and the answer is no, you cannot.
Okay.
Because the expectations, productivity standards, approach that we have, we've all these systems. And they are not a little bit, they are dramatically different. And by the way, we would argue that if you're going to be exceptional in anything, you've got to be dramatically different.
For sure.
You have to be a disruptor. If you do it the same way everybody else is, we would argue you're going to end up at the same place. And by the way, we've tried to hire some people in the early days, and it simply did not work. Frankly, most of them thought we were crazy. I'll give you just one real simple example. At an average apartment community, we have what we call lead tech. They're the person, if you have an air conditioner out or the stove's not working, they come and fix that. So in the industry, the average what they call work orders that you do in an 8-hour day are generally 8 to 10. Okay. Some are a bit less.
Sure.
Maybe a little bit. Our standard for the technician to do is 23. So if you tell a lead tech, hey, no, you can't do 8, you got to do triple that, 23, he's either going to turn around and walk out or he's going to think you're crazy.
Right. Right. Okay. So let's dig into that because you've brought up values multiple times. You talked about the level of productivity. I do think that, and I tell my team this all the time, that the level of expectation that we hold them at and that work ethic that we're developing, that's going to serve them the rest of their life anywhere they go, to be held at that higher level. You're becoming like a more trained athlete. So can you dig into work productivity, work ethic, and anything related to strategies for other CEOs and founders on getting more out of your team in a productive, positive way?
So it comes back to the people you hire. Keep in mind, people don't work for companies. Some companies think so. We would argue that it's part of the equation, but at the end of the day, people work for people. So you must have leaders who can not only manage, but they have to move to the higher ground. And that's motivate and inspire. So our leaders can set wildly high expectations, be very clear, measure what this is what we call the circle of success. Set very high, clear expectations, measure individual accountability, reward and recognition. And by the way, the individual accountability is not only for the person that's reporting to them, but they themselves. So we love it when leaders say, we were wrong, we screwed up, we've got to own it. And if you get really talented people, what we found, they love to be challenged. They love to get better. But on the flip side, you better invest in them. You better recognize them. You better reward them. And by the way, that's not just a pay bump. There's other tangible ways that you do it. It's not an easy formula to do. In fact, it's very hard. But it is exceptionally rewarding if you can do it.
Right. I've run into one challenge is that sometimes you have an employee that is not exceptional work ethic or exceptionally innovative, not always challenging themselves, but they stay in their lane and they do A-, B+ work all the time. It's hard to let that type of a person go. Do you try to convert those people to being at that higher level, or do you simply let them go and only put up with A players that do exceptional, innovative, proactive work?
Yeah, fair question. So here's our approach. We have a whole system of coaching, developing, and evaluation. When someone comes to work in their first 90 to 120 days, we're going to do that. And we're going to ask them first. We're not going to tell them. We're going to ask them, what do you think you do well? What do you need to improve upon? Nobody's perfect. And we try to get aligned, and then we try to invest in them, coach them. But along the way, we believe you have an obligation to be honest and direct, but constructive. Okay. And through that coaching and evaluation, some people will decide that they simply can't do it. And if they can't, then that's fine. But we're not going to compromise. So we have these standards, but we have to give them a chance. We have to communicate. They have to understand. And then it's their choice whether they rise to that standard or not.
Got it.
Many organizations, observation, compromise. They live with the B player. We don't live with the B player. We'll live with no player versus a B player.
That's awesome. I think your comments that you can't do what everyone else is doing, or at best, you're just going to be, trailing the average essentially, and then that you can't compromise and put up with B players. I mean, those are two huge quotes for founders listening to this right now, not to miss. To me, that does stand out as just core truths that are coming out within the other interviews we've been doing, that are emphasized in a unique way by what you just said. So
I would give you one other final thought on that front.
Yeah.
So we have taken on some challenges that people told us it's impossible. We think if you tell us it's impossible, we're all in. And we would actually argue that it's mindset. Impossible is really just somebody's opinion. Very, very rarely based absolutely in fact. And so we try to instill that in all our folks. Now, we can do the impossible. Maybe we're not qualified. Somehow we'll learn. We're going to pull together this belief along with a talented group of people, and we're going to work and we're going to persevere and we're going to overcome.
Awesome. I think to have done anything in their lives, that is as exciting to hear as, whatever the best thing Tony Robbins would say at a self-improvement conference to get people jumping, because I think that you have to be courageous as a CEO and do things when other people think you're crazy or dumb and they don't get it. But it honestly doesn't matter what any of them think. And many of the billionaires I've studied and interviewed, they lean forward on things that people tell them is impossible. People laugh at you. That might be the thing to do,
Show me someone who has done something exceptional, and I will show you someone who has overcome great adversity.
Right, for sure.
It's part of the program when you go on this journey.
Right, for sure. Couldn't agree more. Awesome. So you've been quoted as saying, that we have a fundamental responsibility to share wealth. Why is that important to you? What are you doing with your employees or nonprofits and, community partners, et cetera?
Sure. So we have 5 core values. By the way, we don't have a mission statement. We have core values. And our number one core value is do the right thing. People, I think the vast majority know in their heart what the right thing is to do. I didn't say they always did it. I didn't say they always said it, but they know. And so we've been very fortunate, and we think we have both the obligation and the opportunity to share that wealth. By the way, not to just write checks and hope for the best. So our kids and community partners, by the way, we purposely do not call it a foundation. We are not for profit investors. By the way, we're not getting a monetary return, but we're focused on kids in the communities we operate, or kids, under-resourced kids nationwide.
Yeah.
And we're going to make investments either in our own programs that we're going to scale, or not-for-profit investments in what we believe are good programs that can become great. And by the way, like everything we do, we measure results, outcomes, et cetera. And it's taken us, we Kids and Community in 2011, and it's probably taken us the first decade to really hone that. And, we think and we hope that we're really making an impact, not only locally, but regionally and nationally.
Got it. Awesome. So a couple of unique things there. I don't think we have time to go super deep on that, but it's interesting the way you've approached it and the focus of it all. Appreciate you sharing that. We have a lot of questions that come in from families on where they should focus their energy in that area. Related to focusing energy, though, I'm a adventure enthusiast. We did a Everest base camp last year. We did Machu Picchu a couple of months ago. I live in Hawaii, so I can do outdoor adventure with my family all the time. But you take adventure to a whole nother level. You went to space and the deep ocean in the same year. Can you talk about, how those personal activities have informed the business, or what is it about you that allows you to be ridiculously successful in business to a very high level, but also the love for doing those types of adventures?
So I think that's maybe a couple of part question. And I think that I've been able to do some of those things because of the 4 Ps we talked about earlier. We built an organization with exceptionally talented people who are exceptionally committed, who have unique culture, and they follow plans, strategies, and processes. In terms of some of the endeavors we've done, I would first off tell you, we do nothing unless it meets the S&S standard. Can we do it safely and successfully? Now, also, if you think about, we will do things that people say is impossible. So, for example, the AX-1 mission, which was the first all-private mission with private astronauts to the International Space Station, where I had the good fortune to pilot that. Well, it was a 17-day mission. It's extraordinary. What nobody realizes is 10 months full-time of training before that.
Wow.
And I was a guinea pig. I was the first private citizen NASA ever trained. And believe me, I didn't have a clue. Frankly, the first 3 months with the language and the acronyms and the technical components to these endeavors. But again, it comes back to this perseverance, resilience. And yes, if you said, well, how does that help you? Well, it helps me like I think it'll help other people. I think you have to stretch your mind. You have to stretch your spirit. You got to stretch your body. And by doing all those things, hard at the time, you really learn and improve. And so whether it's space going to the bottom, we just did last fall, we built the largest hot air balloon ever built in the United States, flew that, 5 of us, 4 Air Force, special operators, pararescue guys and myself to 38,000 feet and stepped off of it and set a world record. And most importantly, got on the ground safe. Well,
Yeah.
I just, you probably know this, Richard. People can do so much more than what they think.
Right.
Just got to try. They got to
Yeah.
make the first step. And that's what I would encourage people to do.
Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. We could do a whole interview just on that topic itself if we had time. So if you were to, mentor someone and they said, well, what's the best advice you could give me if I want to build a high performance, enduring business? Obviously, there's the 4 Ps, there's the 2 S's, there's the hiring people aligned with your values, there's the doing what people say is impossible, being a disruptor. You've already answered the question in 6 ways, basically. But is there anything you haven't mentioned yet that is counterintuitive or in addition to that you would give for advice to someone who wants to really excel?
2 thoughts. First off, do not do it for the money. If you really do a great job, the money will come. Second, find something that resonates with you, that you can have passion and purpose about. And if you can do that and spend your waking hours in that kind of worthy endeavor, the chances for success are really good.
Right. Awesome. Great. Yeah, it'll give you an edge others can't compete with, I guess, if you align all those things. Awesome. Well, I think we're just about out of time here. I want to respect your time today, but that was great. I think people are going to love this interview. I'd be happy to have you come to a fireside chat someday on stage at one of our events, and we just appreciate your time here today. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we close off the interview?
Oh, you did a great job. I'm happy to do it, and I appreciate being with you and your listeners.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Larry. Take care.
All right, thanks.
So if you know somebody who's $1 billion plus net worth, they could be first, second, third generation, and they wouldn't mind answering our 3 questions via email, an audio message, a video interview on Zoom, a fireside chat, or a keynote speech on stage at one of our 1,000+ person investor summits, we would love to interview them. If not, please enjoy the rest of the interview series by going to billionaires.com, where you can get hundreds of mental models directly from Billionaires, unfiltered and exclusively available at billionaires.com. Thank you.